And now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our 2011 commencement speaker, Father Gregory Boyle. Father Gregory Boyle is the founder and chief executive officer of Homeboy Industries, which is recognized as the largest gang intervention and re-entry program in the United States of America. Father Boyle was born in Los Angeles, one of 8 children. After graduating from Loyola High School in Los Angeles in 1972, he entered the Order of Society of Jesus and was ordained a priest in 1984. Homeboy Industries traces its roots to Jobs for a Future, a program Father Boyle created in 1988 at the Dolores Mission Parish. In an effort to address the escalating problems and unmet needs of gang-involved youth, Father Boyle and the community developed positive alternatives, including establishing an elementary school, a daycare program, and finding legitimate employment for young people. Jobs for a Future success demonstrated that the model followed today, that many gang members are eager to leave the dangerous and destructive life of living life on the streets. In 1992, as a response to the civil unrest in Los Angeles, Father Boyle launched the first business called Homeboy Bakery with a mission to create an environment that provided training, work experience, and above all, the opportunity for rival gang members to work side by side. The success of the bakery created the groundwork for additional businesses, thus promoting Jobs for a Future to become Homeboy Industries, an independent, nonprofit organization in 2001. Today, Homeboy Industries' nonprofit economic development enterprises includes Homeboy Bakery, Homeboy Silk Screen and Embroidery, Homeboy Homegirl Merchandise, and Homegirl Cafe and Catering. Ladies and gentlemen, please give us a warm welcome to Father Gregory Boyle.
Thank you, Dean Leiter, and the class of 2011. It's a privilege to be with you. The poet Mary Oliver writes, "There are some things you can't reach, but you can reach out to them, and all day long." And what I want to suggest to you in the brief time I have is that the class of 2011 is asked to reach out to the creation of a community of kinship such that God might recognize it, a place where we acknowledge that we belong to each other. There is no us and them, just us. What Martin Luther King says of church could well be said of your time here at UCLA, that it is not the place you've come to, but it is in fact the place you go from. And so you leave this place, and good for you and for us that UCLA has not prepared you for the real world. It has asked you to challenge it, to be concerned less with the bottom line and more with those who line the bottom. And so to that end, you inch yourself out to the very edges and the margins, and you dismantle barriers that exclude, and you want to widen the circle of compassion so that the poor and the powerless and the voiceless might find themselves included. And so you stand with those whose dignity has been denied, and you stand with those whose burdens are more than they can bear. And you stand on great and fortunate days with the easily despised and the readily left out. You stand even with the demonized so that the demonizing will stop, and with the disposable so that the day will come when we stop throwing people away. This is the place you go from to create a community of kinship. Everything I've learned of value in the last 25 years working with gang members has come by way of gang members who have taught me about kinship and lots of other things. In the past year, they've taught me how to text, and I'm so grateful to them. I find that it sure beats the heck out of actually talking to people. And so I'm quite good at it. LOL, OMG, BTW. And there's a new one the homies taught me, OHN, which apparently stands for, oh hell no. And I'm using that quite a bit lately. So there I am in a car with two homies, Manuel and Poncho, and we're driving to Palm Desert to speak at a high school. Older vatos who've been to prison and tattooed and worked for me. And Manuel's in the front seat, incoming, text comes in, he reads it, he chuckles. I say, what is it? He goes, oh, it's dumb, it's from Snoopy back at the office. Well, I'd just seen Snoopy 15 minutes before. He gave me a big abrazo as the day began, and Snoopy and Manuel worked together in the clock-in room where they clock in hundreds and hundreds of gang members who work at Homeboy Industries. I said, what's it say? Oh, it's dumb, hang on a second. Hey, dog, it's me, Snoops. Yeah, they got my ass locked up at county jail. They're charging me with being the ugliest vato in America. You have to come down right now, show them they got the wrong guy. Well, we died laughing, and then I realized that Manuel and Snoopy are enemies. They are from rival gangs. They used to shoot bullets at each other. Now they shoot text messages. And there's a word for that, and the word is kinship. I suspect if kinship was our goal, we would no longer be promoting justice, we would be celebrating it. For the measure of your compassion, class of 2011, lies not in your service of those on the margins, but in your willingness to see yourself in kinship with them. I am so honored that so many of you in this class have honored us by going to Homegirl Cafe and eating there. Because I've seen you there, I've met you. And a visitor we had some months ago was Diane Keaton, the Oscar-winning movie star. She came for lunch with a regular who's there once a week. And her waitress this day is Glenda. And Glenda is a homegirl, been there, done that, been to prison, tattooed, a felon. She doesn't know who Diane Keaton is. So she's taking her order, and Diane Keaton says, what do you recommend? And Glenda rattles off the 3 platillos that she particularly likes. And Diane Keaton says, I'll have that second one, it sounds good. And then Glenda says, something dawns on her, and she looks at Diane Keaton and says, wait a minute, I feel like I know you from somewhere. Like maybe we've met before. And Diane Keaton deflects it humbly, oh gosh, I don't know, I suppose I have one of those faces that people think they've seen before. And then Glenda goes, no, now I know. We were locked up together. That just took my breath away. And suddenly kinship so quickly, Oscar-winning actress, attitudinal waitress, exactly what God had in mind. And if you'll permit me, Jesus says something very succinctly in articulating his own desire and thinking it's God's as well, that you may be one, that you may be one. That's what you seek in your nursing career, to foster a sense of belonging to each other, as Melody mentioned, a sense of your patient being yours and you are connected. There's an idea that's taken root in the world. It's at the root of all that's wrong with it, and the idea would be this, that there just might be lives out there that matter less than other lives. You've chosen to stand against that idea. Good for you. People ask me often about enemies working side by side with each other, and it's a little tense at first. The homies will want a job, and I'll say there's an opening in the bakery, but you have to work with X, Y, and Z, naming enemies, and they always say the same thing, I'll work with them, but I won't talk to them. It used to bother me in the early days until you discover, of course, that it's impossible for human beings to demonize people they know. You can't sustain it. So one day I'm introducing a new homie to his first day at work at the Homeboy silkscreen factory. We have about 30 workers there. His name was Youngster. So I walk Youngster through the plant. I introduce him to everybody. He shakes hands and looks in the eyes, even of his enemies. And I think this is great. Until Youngster gets around the bend and he sees a gang member named Puppet. And the two of them mumble something. They stare at their shoes. They don't shake hands. Well, I know they're enemies because I know what gangs they hail from. But he just finished shaking hands with other enemies. I discovered later that this is a hatred neither thinks they can get beyond. So I sense that much at the moment, and I say, look, if you guys can't hang working together, just let me know. I've got a bunch of people who want this job. And they say nothing. 6 months later, Puppet is going to a corner store to get something. He decides to take a shortcut home and ducks into an alley, and because he's suddenly surrounded by members of a rival gang, 10 against 1. They beat him badly. While he lies on the ground, they will not stop kicking his head until he's lying there lifeless. Somebody finds his body and takes him to White Memorial Hospital, where he's declared effectively brain dead, though they keep him connected to machines for 48 hours until they can get the flat read and sign the death certificate. This allowed family and friends to gather. I was at St. Louis University giving a talk. I flew home. I've seen a lot of horrible things in my life, nothing to compare to the sight of this young man with his head swollen many times its size. It was horrifying. You could barely train your eyes on him. I blessed him and gave him an anointing on his forehead, and they disconnected at the end of the 48 hours, and a week later I buried him. But in the first 24 hours, at 8:30 at night, I'm alone in my office. I get a phone call. It's from Youngster, Puppet's co-worker at the silk screen. That's messed up, he says, about what happened to Puppet. I said, yeah, it is. And then with a certain kind of eagerness even, he says, is there anything I can do? Can I give him my blood? And we both fall silent under the weight of it. Then finally he breaks the silence, choking back his tears, and he says with great deliberation, he was not my enemy. He was my friend. We worked together. Now, can I say that always happens? Yes. Any exceptions? No. And it shouldn't surprise us that God's own dream for us, that you may be one, just happens to be our own longing for ourselves. Kinship. UCLA School of Nursing is not the place you've come to. It is the place you go from, to create a place where everyone belongs. No one is excluded. And we create together a community of kinship such that God, in fact, might recognize it. Yeah, maybe there are some things you can't reach, but you sure can reach out to them. And all day long. God bless you, class of 2011.